What's going on, everybody? Thanks for tuning back in. In this part of the tutorial series, I'm going to show you how to hook Unity's logs to the developer console itself. So anytime you use Debug.log or any of its child components, it's going to spit it out to your console. This is especially useful if you're using Control-B, if you're building your project, testing it standalone, and you want to see some of the logs, you can just look at the console to do it. So the first thing that I want to show you guys is, I have a link in the description below for a little page on Stack Overflow. And let me show it to you really quickly. And what this is a scroll bar fix that I was having an issue with. So if you go to the answer right here, I'll explain what this means. Inside Unity, whenever I was running the developer console, when I was finding a weird error where firstly the text started at the top, that wasn't the issue, but every time the scroll bar started to move when there was too much text in the screen, the scroll bar would bounce and it wouldn't lock to the bottom. So how I fixed that is I changed the Y pivot to 0 on the content pane, changed it to 0, made sure only these two were selected, changed the child alignment to lower left, and changed the vertical fit to a preferred size, and that locks everything to the bottom and it makes the scroll bar move nicely. So once you implement this fix, all you have to do is get rid of these two lines right here, changing the vertical position to 0, and get rid of the scroll rect because we really don't need it anymore. The whole reason we were defining the scroll rect object was to lock the vertical scroll bar to the bottom, and the way we were doing it was not efficient. So now if you hit play, if you change your content stuff to this, and you open the console, make sure it's on the lower left, everything will be nice, and the scroll bar will be locked to the bottom. No problem. So what we're going to do now is we're going to use an event that's fired off in Unity to hook Unity's logs to our console. And how we do this is through application.log message received. This is how you hook your own function to one of Unity's events, and I'm going to be going over with how to do that right now. So inside your developer console file, let's go right above the start command. And let's make a new function called private void handle log. We're going to do this just the way the Unity documentation has it. So we're going to have a string log message, a string stack trace, and what that is for is if you want to trace errors or warnings. We don't have to worry about that yet. And then the log type. So what we're going to do now is we're going to construct our own custom log message using Unity's logs. So basically what I want to do is I want to print out the type of log it is and the log message for now. So to do that, let's create a nice little bracket here and send our type to string. Nice and easy. So basically if it's a log, an error, or a warning, it's going to spit that out for us right here. Let's put a space there and add the log message. And now we've constructed our own custom log out of Unity's logs. Now you're probably wondering, how are we going to hook this to the developer console itself? So what we're going to do is, the first thing I'm going to do, I'm probably not going to need to call the static message console anymore. I'm pretty sure I don't use it anywhere else. I'm going to just double check. Yeah, I don't use it here. We don't really need the static method anymore because everything's going to be called internally from the developer console itself. So I'm just going to go ahead and get rid of this. And anywhere else that we need to call it, any errors we get, we're just going to use Debug.log, and it's going to do the same thing for us now. So after this handle log, after the custom message that we create, we're simply going to call, add message to console, and it's going to be our message. No problem. Now, what we have to do now is hook it the same way that Unity showed us in its documentation. So we're going to override the onEnable function for our game object, and we're going to override the onDisable function for our game object. And then we're going to call application.log message received. This is the event we want to hook, plus equals handle log. The plus equals hooks it, and then the minus equals unhooks it. Very simple. So now anytime debug.log, .warning, .error, or whatever other types they ever make are called, it's going to call this handle log function and send it to our console. So let's go through, make sure we don't have any errors. So you'll notice up here we have a little error because we were calling the static method from console command. We don't have to do this anymore. So when we have our string add message command has been added to the console, let's change this to simply debug.log. So instead of calling that static method, now we're just calling Unity's built-in debug.log and see what happens. So there's also one more fix that you might notice, and that's in create commands. I was creating a new command quit, then calling the static function. Here, I'm just calling the static function by itself. You don't need to actually create an object for it. So let's go to Unity. Let's see if it compiles and doesn't spit out any errors. Everything looks good. Let's hit play and see what happens. So when I hit the console, you can see now that, hey, log is spitting out. Quit command has been added to the console. Cool. So I type in commands, say command not recognized. Let's change these to logs as well. Now there's two other logs, log outputs that I would work with, and that's warning and error. We don't really have to use error that much unless you're using try-catch blocks or you know where an error might spit out. But instead of adding the message to console here, let's do debug.log warning. And let's do the same thing here and see what happens. So if I use a command now that's not recognized, it should give me a warning. The reason we don't want this to be an error is because typing a bad command in the console shouldn't crash your game or cause your game to pause or anything like that. It's just a warning. It's not a fatal error. So let's just type that, and it's saying, hey, warning command not recognized, and you also get a warning log right here. Just for the sake of it, I will show you what the log error looks like. And now it's spitting out a Unity engine error. Cool. So let me unpause that. Let me go back and change that. Log warning. And there you have it, guys. There's a simple way to hook your logs into your developer console. Just to show you one more time, what happens if I actually still type the command quit? It quits. Everything still works. Awesome. All right, guys, that is it. Thank you so much for tuning back in, and we'll see you next time.